Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I interview an incredible woman who is going to blow your minds when it comes to finances. This is a topic, money, 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 that designers love to hate, I think. Anyways, that was me for a long time. Still slightly, I'm still in that transitioning, learning, growth stage and trying to get better at finances. But this is a really specific and useful conversation for female entrepreneurs. She talks about paying yourself, how to do it. She talks about, the idea that you can forecast, you can strategize, so you can understand the money that's coming your way. She talks, of course, about mindset, because no conversation about money would be healthy without discussing the power of the stories we tell ourselves and the power of our money mindset. She's a money management and mindset coach. Her name is Erinn Bridgman, and she empowers female entrepreneurs to design a business that's not just profitable, which it should be anyhow, but actually grows their personal wealth. And that's why I think this conversation is really unique and interesting, because she also comes from a creative entrepreneur background. She was a photographer, and now she is building her real estate empire with her husband. But what I love about the conversation is she shares this powerful idea that we need to be paying ourselves more. We need to be thinking about ourselves now and not just keeping our money in our business. All right, I'm giving away too much. It's such a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you looking to expand your network, gain momentum in your business, and be around your tribe of designers or decorators or architects? If you answered yes, then go check out the Collective Workspace. They offer a range of private office suites, flex workspaces, boardroom rentals, and many more perks, along with a trade-only design resource library. Oh, and did I mention a boutique gym? Their flagship space is located in the heart of Toronto. I am here right now in the Design District, with a second location opening up this fall in Mississauga. Go check them out at thecollectiveto.com or go on Instagram at The Collective Workspace, your tour, or take advantage of their free 3-day pass. All right. Welcome, Erinn, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So before we get too far into it, why don't you let my audience know who you are?
Yes. So I'm Erinn with 2 N's. My parents had to, make me super unique. And I am a money mindset and management coach. Really passionate about helping female creative entrepreneurs own their worth, charge the right prices, really scale their businesses, but also scale their personal wealth.
Awesome. And you started as a photographer, I think I read.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Back in the day.
A little bit. Yeah. So I find people's origin or their story or their path so fascinating, because that what I've recognized, especially from having this podcast, is that there's no one way to get to where you go. Everyone has a different journey. Can you share that journey a little bit of how you started and how did it get you to where you are now?
My goodness. Okay. I'll do Cliff Notes version here. But I think since I was a young, human, I always have had sort of an entrepreneur bent. And in order to pay for college, I was a door-to-door sales girl. I sold books door-to-door and was very successful in that. And so kind of figured out how to do sales in the most difficult cold calling way you can. And So then shortly after we got married, Brett and I was like, we need hobbies. We need to do fun things. We had moved to a new city and I'd always wanted to get into photography. And so we took the money that we got from our graduation and we bought our first camera. And that, of course, quickly turned into a business. So that was back in 2012 when we started doing photography, got into the wedding industry, added on videography and scaled it within like 2 years to a 6-figure company. And we did that for a long time. We did that for about 7 years, 8 years. And in the meantime, we were getting our master's degrees and doing a lot. And I kind of fell into this alignment with, I created, back then it was so different. It was a blog for female entrepreneurs at a subscription box. Man, I was doing all the things. But in that started my coaching business. And that is what is my heartbeat, what I'm super passionate about. So been doing that for about 5 years. And also in that time, we started our real estate empire, and that's been growing since.
Oh my gosh. I love how you word that. A real estate empire. It sounds
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fun.
So do you still do photography?
I do not. We do not. We have, we call it, we've said we retired. So I do pick up my camera if I feel inspired, if I want to. We use it for our own internal business, for video and photos for my brand, for real estate, but we don't sell that service anymore.
Right. So I would imagine it's really helping you with your own marketing branding because you have that eye, you have that skill set. I think that's a leg up, really. And all the sales, oh my gosh, that's so crazy hearing you say that. Cold calls, sales calls. Most designers listening probably cringed when they heard you say that. I know I did. I'm like, oh God, I would hate to do that. Like door to door. Yeah. How did you I imagine you just do it. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. How do you think that's really translated into your ability to sell now in life?
Oh, I mean, sales, a huge part of sales, and I teach sales when we get into when I work with people one-on-one or on VIP days, I really dig into their sales strategy and things like that, because if you want to make more money, it means you have to raise your prices, which means you have to have a really good sales strategy to support the new pricing. But while there is definitely strategy to sales, a lot of it is mindset and having personal confidence, really believing in what you're selling, being able to push past the no's. I had a really crazy morning routine when I was a bookseller. It's funny to think about. And that really grounded me. And every morning I was worried I'd have a 0 day. And a 0 day is that you wouldn't sell anything. And every single day I worked, I never had a 0 day in my entire career. And it's really it's a mental game, and hearing the no's, seeing the doors slam in your face, and you just keep going. And I think that has been something that has helped me be successful in all the other entrepreneurial endeavors I've had, and in being able to coach women and really dig into both strategy and mindset.
I love you say that. It's so interesting. I recently interviewed Louis Tahee. He's a designer in Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, kind of across Canada. And he said the same thing. You just have to keep going. It's interesting. I feel like most successful entrepreneurs and business people I'm starting, this podcast is cool. You get to kind of pull in all these nuggets and learn and start to see commonalities across all these successful women and a few men. And when I started this, I'm like, I'm going to interview successful women. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy would be probably good too. Or maybe that guy. So
I love it.
I did record my intro. But anyhow, that aside, he talks about that. And I think it's really interesting to hear you say that, because it is so true. And specifically with sales, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to, you just keep going. And the people who succeed are the ones that just don't freaking give up.
Yep. Yeah, it's a numbers game. If you know your conversions, if you're, depending on what you're doing, let's say 30% is a good conversion rate for you, then that means every 10 people you speak to, 7 of them will say no. And you might get 6 no's in a row, and you just have to be like, you know what? I'm closer to my yes. And that sort of mentality just keeping you going.
So interesting. Yesterday we had our year-end review meeting with my team, and one of the things that we looked at was our conversion rate. And I'm still kind of learning this.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting because we were kind of looking at our funnel, right? Like the leads that come in, how many of those then convert to a discovery call with me? And then from the discovery call, how many turn into a consultation, which is paid? And then from the consultation, we do a proposal. So how many consultations then convert into jobs? And I got a little bit discouraged because we've had so many leads. Like the interior design business is bananas. And we got, I think up till September this year, we got like 56 new leads, new inquiries. And then all the numbers. I don't have them in front of me. I see you taking out your pen and paper. I can't help you.
I'm about to do some calculations. Here you go.
So it was like, I wish Vera was here. So it was like 56 leads. And then I think it went down to like only 17 of those were discovery calls. And I think I'm making these numbers up. This is vaguely what I remember. And then from the discovery calls, I don't know if it was more than half of them turned into consultation. And then from consultation, I think we had, I can't remember. Anyhow, the point is that it was started really big at the top of the funnel and it really funneled down. And my reaction was, and I think the conversion rate in the end from like new leads to like sales was only like 5% or something really low. Mm-hmm. Because we're a luxury service and because we've raised our prices. And to me, what that said was, are we doing something wrong if we're attracting all these people and they, in the end, don't select us usually because we're priced too high for them? Mm-hmm. And so I wondered, like, do I need to tweak our marketing so that we're qualifying those people before they even come to us? And then somebody else was like, no, it's good. Like, that's normal. And I have no benchmark. I don't know.
So as you raise your prices, of course, you have to get tighter with your marketing strategy, with your sales strategy. And just if you think of the visual, and I know your audience is very visual, I am too, a funnel is broad at the top and narrower at the bottom. And that is because you have more people at the top. And as they keep coming down your funnel, it gets smaller and smaller. So, but there are important things that you can do to tighten up things. And so if you're seeing that you at the top of the funnel, you're like, wow, there's a lot of leads that aren't converting to discovery calls, then you want to look at your messaging. You want to look at what your copy is on your website. Like, are you really dialed into the avatar that you're wanting to speak to? Do you have qualifiers that help them know what minimums are that you kind of accept working with people? Do you have on your form? Your form is really important, your inquiry form, and seeing what is their budget and different things like that. So you can use language in copy to attract and help them know that they're in the right place or not. And then you can tighten up different things in each part of the funnel.
Awesome. So I feel like I'm on the right track because we've updated the intake form. We have drop downs and we've raised that sort of minimum. Like, what's your budget? Is it 100 to 300,000? So immediately someone who says they have 50,000 to spend, they know that we're not for them. But what we haven't done yet, and it's a 2022 goal, is the copy on the site, is to really update the website so it reflects and it talks about the level of service that we offer, because I haven't updated the website in several years.
Yeah, that's going to be huge for you. And then really looking at like, where do your leads come? Like, is it on Instagram? Is it wherever? And then the messaging there really needs to be tight. And that's when I highly recommend like digging into developing your buyer profile avatar, really understanding the pain and pleasure that they are wanting to leave and move into. And then that's where your copy can be super tight and super strong.
Totally. And we actually yesterday in our meeting, we have our like ideal client avatar. And I teach this I have a marketing course called Momentum for Design. I teach the power of the dream client or the ideal client. And yesterday when my team and I were reading through the client, and every year we update it, we did it and we were like, no, we need to level up because I feel like this is our client now. So then the dream or our ideal client we need, because we're trying to continue to level up, right? And so we went through it and we tweaked it. We're like, it's not a medium to high-end residential. It's a high-end residential. It's not da-da-da. It's someone who has a second property. Like we continue to do that. And it was a really great exercise because you're right. It's so important to really clearly understand the clients that you are trying to reach.
Yes. And since your clientele is so visual, really important to start to show the $100,000 to $300,000, jobs and like remove anything that's less than that. And, so that then they really are seeing visually too what they get working with you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Totally. Okay. So money.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. But also, actually, before we move on to that, I love that you said that you need to look at where your clients are coming from. And that's something that I've tasked someone on my team with. I'm like, oh, well, that's great that we got 56 new leads between January and September. Now we need to look at, because we do track, just need to pull it all together. Where do they all come from? Like you said, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe the majority of the leads that are not converting are coming from Instagram. And the majority of the leads that are converting are coming from, I don't know, some real estate agency that refers to us. Right?
Yes.
And then you can shift, you put all your attention. Maybe I'm putting all my attention to Instagram, but really the people who are reaching out to me from Instagram aren't actually hiring me.
Right. Exactly. That's where you got to do all of that data work, and then you know where to put your time and your money.
Yeah. So it's the stuff that I never did. Honestly, Erinn, it's the stuff most designers, I will tell you, I'm sure you can understand because you're creative a bit too, right?
Yeah.
That we don't want to do this. Like that's time consuming. I'm busy. I have to go pick fabric. I need to call my client back. My contractor is with the tiler right now on site. Like I don't have time to sit down and look at where everybody came from. I literally only started doing this in the last 3 years of my business. And I've been doing this for a decade plus.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I am a creative by heart. Like that's how I started in the industry. That's who I work with. I work with all creative entrepreneurs. And, we said before we started recording that I do interior design and staging inside of our real estate business. And I found this theme, right? That we get into entrepreneurship because we love the trade. We love taking photos and working with clients, or we love doing the interior design. But when you're an entrepreneur, you wear a lot of hats, and there's a lot of business hats that you have to wear. And throughout the years, as we start kind of the conversation towards money, that's been a huge thing that a commonality I find with creative female entrepreneurs is feeling really uncomfortable with numbers, how to organize them, manage them. And so, I resonate. I know the journey, and I've worked with many women. It sounds like that resonates with your audience. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about that because it's something that I'm still trying to figure out and grasp. I always say, and I probably shouldn't say this because it's wrong attention into the universe, right?
Okay.
It's like the way I talk about money. I used to always say like, I'm bad with numbers. Like I'm trying to reframe that. Mm-hmm. But what I do tend to say is it's really hard to make money as a designer. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. And I realize that it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it is. Like running a design business, it's so multifaceted. Oftentimes designers are not charging what they're worth, or they charge their hourly, but they don't actually charge all the hours to the client because we have our own sticker shock. We sometimes don't recognize that our clients are from a different snack bracket, at least if we're working with those dream clients that we want to work with that have the budgets. And at the end of the year, I mean, I know for the first few years that I ran my business, I was in the red, which for those listening is an accounting term, means I did not make a profit and I owed back taxes to the government. Mm-hmm. In Canada, it's the CRA. In the US, I don't know what it is, but
yeah.
So like how part of that, like, I mean, I've gotten out of that, but at the same time, it's one thing to say, yay, we were profitable this year. But then like I just turned 40 this year and all I can think is how the F am I ever going to retire? Like, am I going to have to keep doing this? Like this insane hustle rest of my life until the day I die? Because there's like, sure, I invest in the retirement savings plans that the government has, but like, let's be honest, that is not going to sustain any kind of lifestyle that I want.
Right.
So like, I don't know if you have any tips or pointers about that, but I panic a little bit about the money side of it as much as I've evolved. And I know
Yeah.
other designers 100% are going through the same thing.
Okay, I have so many things, so many thoughts I could say. First of all, my methodology of when I work with people is I really believe that you have to do both the management piece and the mindset work. That's like my secret sauce because the things that you were saying at the beginning, like I'm not a numbers person, or it's really hard to make money as a designer. We're conditioning our brain to believe that. I'm reading a book and it was talking about like the placebo effect in medicine and just how you can take a placebo pill and your body will like still react if it has the medication because it believes it's medicine. And so I think that just shows the power of the brain. And many, many times as women, we have been conditioned with these limiting beliefs, these thoughts around money for as long as we've been alive, right? 30, 40, 50 years. And so we have this sort of like default that it's hard to make money. I have to work really hard to make money, or I'm not good at numbers, things like that. And so we have to start training our brain because we have this belief that's been instilled for so many years that we have to do really intentional work to reverse that, to dig into that belief, to start creating new patterns of thought because, we can do all the management work but if our thinking doesn't change, then we haven't gotten to the root of it. But then I see that as we do the management piece, our mindset like starts to like, hey, I can control, I can manage these numbers. I can do the things that help me to retire and things like that. And so I kind of, my methodology brings them both together. So
what do you mean by management? So I'm like, what is this management thing? I want to do it and I want to master that.
Okay, great. So like I said, kind of in my intro, I mean, yeah, I care about your business making more revenue. I care about you being profitable 100%. Like those things need to happen, but that it doesn't stop there. It's more important to me that we really help you take your money in your business and we help it impact your personal life. And so in my management system, we do basic things. Of course, like you have to have your P&L sheet. We need to see it on a monthly basis. We have tools for you to do that. And often the type of entrepreneur, the 6-figure entrepreneur that I'm kind of working with, they have the ability to hire a bookkeeper. And that's the P&L sheet stuff, reconciling transactions and things like that. That is something that you can outsource. You can't outsource like making sure you're looking at your P&L sheet and making decisions. So that's the first piece. And then the next piece is it's called the CFO. I can kind of just get specific, I guess, with the spreadsheets, but the tools. So the CFO spreadsheet. And in that, we look at it's more high level for you to be able to analyze your business to see what is my profitability? How do I project my taxes every month? So I set them aside and I never have a scary tax payment. You're planning.
Oh my God, hold up, stop for a second. That is like music to everybody's ears because even though I have bookkeepers, I have accountants, I have an operations manager, and they're all kind of helping. But at the same time, when I get that email from the accountant saying, hey, Rebecca, you owe an installment, because I don't know if it's the same there, but it says here, I'll have to do installments now, right? Anyways, I'm not going to get into all that. And I'm like, I owe what? What the what? And I'm like, oh, that sucks. I have to pay $8,000. I have to pay $12,000. And it feels like honestly, it feels like it comes out of nowhere because I am not tracking like this monthly. This is brilliant.
Yeah. So, you can outsource bookkeeping. You can outsource accounting. We do that in our companies, but you cannot outsource being the CFO of your business. And so that is like inside of that tool, we figure out what should your tax percentage be, because that kind of varies based on we can't like in this side of the street sheet, like say how much you get discounted for mileage or the square footage of your, office and things like that. So based on previous data, we figure out kind of your tax percentage. And then it will say based on your revenue, your expenses, it will tell you exactly how much you need to put aside in taxes. And I also teach, certain bank accounts that you need to open in order to keep yourself organized in your business and personal life. But so then this CFO spreadsheet also like helps you determine a consistent salary, because that's something that I see very often is even incredibly successful entrepreneurs are paying themselves last, are paying themselves like very willy-nilly. They don't actually like know how much they pay themselves every month. They can't count on something every month. And that is not going to help you grow your personal wealth. That's not going to help you retire, have a retirement plan.
Almost every designer I know. That was me for a million years. In ways, it's still me a little bit because I've always been in the mindset, like keep the money in the business. And it's so interesting that you say that because we just had a conversation this week in our designers room coaching group. And one of the designers said, like, how do people pay themselves? Because I just kind of pay myself. I need it. And I think that's so good to talk about it because I haven't talked about this on the podcast before because I think most designers do that. They're solos or maybe a couple employees and they draw from the company when they need it, right? For their rent, for their mortgage. Maybe they're on a small fixed salary. That's what I've done for years. I'm like, it's going to be on a little salary just to minimize how much I have to pay and like contribute and taxes and all that. And I'll just draw extra as needed. But you're right. It's not like I know every month. Even I, with my business, I've been doing this for so long, do not know. I don't have a steady every single month how much. It's like I do have a little baseline, but otherwise I'm just paying myself as much as I need. But as a result, it's like I still feel like I'm scraping by sometimes. Even though I know I can transfer myself funds if needed, it never feels like, oh, I'm going to budget this family trip or, hey, maybe I can get this Christmas present. Because it isn't like, you're right. It's not like I'm on like this salary and I know I get the set bonus every year the way other, professionals in other industries do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I want to help the world. I want women to become wealthy and I want to be a part of that because I believe wealthy women will change the world. And that is difficult to do if we're just paying ourselves so little that like we don't feel wealthy. We're not making wealthy decisions in our business and in our personal life, which just keeps us, at a low vibration and it prevents us from scaling and prevents us from living the life that we love.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah,
I've heard designers say like, oh, well, I pay my staff more than I pay myself. Like I had a very prominent designer in Toronto say to me a few weeks ago that they were looking to hire a senior designer and like the job market's bananas right now. And so the senior designer wants this. And she's like, I don't even pay myself that. And that's when I started thinking, I'm like, something is wrong. You take on all the responsibility as the business owner, right?
All the risk, all the
risk. You should get paid for that.
Yes, preach it. I love it. So the CFO, two other important things that the CFO spreadsheet does that I just want to highlight or that I teach is that a part of this is that you get to see the profitability in your company, you get to see the expenses so that you can see I have plenty of money to invest into my business, to outsource this thing, to do those types of things with confidence, because that's what helps us scale. That's what helps us live into the whole. So many of us go into entrepreneurship to have the lifestyle, and that's one of the first things that we sacrifice. And so we end up just burying ourselves and hustling. And if we actually saw the numbers, knew the numbers, we could make some more strategic decisions. And so we do that, as well as one other piece that I think is really important in this is that you have to do projections. And so I actually remember I listened to one of your podcasts and you were talking about this a little bit different about like jobs and seeing when they come in and out, but you need to do this with your money. And so, we have sort of a system where we like see what is actual, what is reasonable based on last year, based on what you have on your books. And then let's stretch it. Let's see like, what can you project for the next quarter or two? I love it when we can get to 6 months. And then you can start to then strategize. Okay, I'm going to market for this. I'm going to open up these spots. I'm going to push this to my email list or whatever. And automatically you're in this mindset. Your brain is like, there's more for me. I have more available to me. And you start to take action out of that thought that helps you make more money. So that's the CFO side of my system a bit.
Yeah, it's like that abundance mindset. Like, oh, we have lots of work because you can see into the future. It's interesting. When I a few years ago, probably 5 years ago now, I did a project for a client, and we just started chatting business. And she was a COO at an organization, and she started helping me and coaching me. Anyhow, long story short, she's now my operations manager. She works for me now, which is very exciting. She at the time was helping me, and she said, "You need to forecast your sales." And I was like, okay, like that's so not happening. Like you clearly do not understand the interior design industry. It is not possible. I don't know where my next job is coming from. I can't, what am I going to do? Like make it up? Like I was so resistant to this idea. And I think a lot of designers feel the same way as we don't always understand where our leads are coming from, right? What actions we're doing that bring them. And oftentimes designers too, there's this feast or famine mentality that we just need to take on all the work when it comes so that, because there's always like those dry spells as opposed to trying to stagger it out. So I'm curious, like, what do you say to women that are in industries similar or in the design industry or other industries that are similar where they are, big projects? It's not like we're selling pencils or purses. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I can forecast it's summer and beach towels are going to do really well. And then come fall, we're going to sell, I don't know, incense. I'm making random things up, but I
love it. Go with it.
I think the service-based industry has always felt a little bit more challenging when it comes to that because people just, I don't know. What do you say? Like, what are your, I mean, I've since started forecasting and it's actually possible, but I know a lot of people probably still feel like, no. I don't know how to figure that out.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to figure that out to some extent. And I will say, again, this is where like the strategy and the mindset are going to like kind of blend together because you could tell yourself, I can't forecast, I can't count on this, it's feast or famine. Or you could start to tell yourself like, wow, if I think ahead, if I strategize ahead, like how much more likely am I to bring in more business? Like I have the ability to attract the people I want, like, right? Like getting that into the, more abundant, believing kind of vibration. So there's the mindset piece, but then, obviously with photography being one of my like sort of roots, I attract a lot of photographers. And so photographers have seasonality within their business. And so what I see happening is then because of that, and because we don't know our numbers, we can't pay ourselves consistently because it's like, 6 months of the year is when we're bringing in a ton of money. And then the rest of the year is like a little bit less. But if you're doing the work and if you kind of can see throughout the year how much you bring in, and you can start to really like keep your salary consistent throughout the year. So just to say, even if you have seasonality within your business, this type of system and this type of thinking is going to work for you. You just have to figure out like that you have to know the numbers in order to make these decisions. And then in order to sort of figure out, well, how can I forecast? You've got to look at the industry, like look at the general industry, like what is common. And I'm sure like in interior design, typically like in the summer, I'm just making this up, but maybe in the summers, people are on vacation, they don't really want it. But this time of year, like, you got leads coming in a lot here and here. And so you kind of think about your industry generally, and then you want to look at what happened the previous year in your business or the past couple of years, and you'll be able to see trends. And then you have to also raise your belief that like, okay, well, I could do certain things to make sure like these times when the season's hot for me, I make sure, we book X, Y, and Z and things like that.
Yeah, it's so true. But that's something, again, that you have to take the time to sit down and do, because just spinning your wheels and going forward, like I can imagine, and hearing you say that now has got me thinking what something that we haven't really looked at. But now that we've been tracking over 2 years all of our leads, we use a program called Dubsado, which is useful. We just use it for onboarding, for invoicing, because that was not, it was not detailed enough for us. But but what's great about it is that we can like put little drop downs, we get the referral source, and then it shows you the date. And so we've pulled it into a spreadsheet, but I can now look and see like, oh yeah, like it's so interesting you say that, like, duh, why haven't I done this? A lot of the leads are coming in like February, March, April, and then they're coming in again like September, October. So you can start to see like that's when we're going to get more influx of inquiries. So what does that mean for the project start date? Because you're right. It's funny because I say this to my friends all the time. I'm like, they're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Like, I don't really have anything in the horizon. And I'm like, when have you not had work before? Like, you've been doing this for 8 years. The work always comes to you. So you have to sometimes take a leap of faith. But I guess more realistically, to your point, is to actually strategize and look at the numbers. Because a big thing with designers now, because the design industry is booming, is how do I know what I can afford to hire? I need help. And how do I know? Had friends reach out to me. They're like, well, how do you know what you can afford? I'm like, well, I literally forecast it based on if I have 6 projects, a $300,000 value, right? It'll give me this profit margin. And so it'll cover my run rate and I will break even. So with these 3 employees, let's say. So I know that I need a minimum of that to just break even, having these expenses, which are including employees. But it takes time and it takes doing math. But like, I know I shouldn't say this, but a lot of designers just really shy away from it.
It's not just designers. It's creatives in general, right? I think, I don't want to say like everyone, but I found this trend for, 5 years. And, in some of my messaging, I'm like, spreadsheets can be sexy. My spreadsheets are really beautiful, and user friendly. Cause I know I'm working with creatives and visual people. But too, like this idea of like, I can't do math. I mean, that's not real. That's just a label and a belief that you're putting onto yourself. And, you can learn it. Like nobody comes out of the womb knowing how to do math. It's a skill that we can like sharpen. And I think that if you don't do these things, like you're a business. So if you don't know numbers, if you don't do forecasting, if you don't know profitability, if you're not paying yourself, what happens is we make decisions out of fear, out of scarcity. Oh, I don't know. Oh my God. So I'm just going to keep looking.
Yes. Yes. And yes. And if you're listening right now and you're like, I don't do that. Everybody does that. And I only recognize why I made so many decisions. It was out of fear that I was going to run out of money, fear I don't know. You're so right. Sorry, I totally interrupted you, but I'm
great. I love it. Bring the passion. I love it. Yeah. So then, what happens is if you're like, okay, I just don't do that. I just need more jobs, or I just need to do this. You're making probably some pretty like not strategic decisions. Like you're bringing on clients that maybe you don't really want to work with. You're maybe doing like really low pricing. You're not doing the things because you're not informed. And so like a lot of times, sometimes if you actually look at the numbers it's good news. It's not necessarily like a lot of times it's good news. But people maybe have the tendency to hoard, or they're like, because of fear and scarcity. And so then they just kind of outwork themselves. And, I just want to see people like lasting as entrepreneurs. And I think you have to know your numbers in order to make decisions that keep you in the game for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a really powerful reminder for anyone listening, especially as you're growing your team. And I know right now that's a big thing in the industry because we're busy. And for me, for the longest time, I made these decisions based on like a scarcity mindset where I would hire somebody and then I would panic, right? I'd be like, yes, I need them. Like we have cash in the bank. I need them. I wasn't forecasting. I wasn't like planning ahead, strategizing. I was like, yeah, we have money in the bank. We've got these projects. I need like a senior designer. I need an intermediate designer and like freelance, whatever. Let's roll. And then a few months would pass and the bank account would dwindle, but I really had no future forecasting in my mind. And I would panic. And I would be stressed out that I had these people and I was like, I'm going to run out of money. I don't think I can pay myself. And I would just not pay myself. But it wasn't big picture. I was so reactive and panicked out of fear because I didn't have all that knowledge.
Yeah. And you don't have to run your business like that. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I love that you've evolved and you're like working on these pieces. So
I mean, I'm evolving.
Hey, we're in progress. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely not, it's not something that comes naturally to me and a lot of creatives, as you mentioned. So I think hearing that it's possible is what we need to hear. And like hearing that you have pretty spreadsheets, I like that. I'm like, I got to check these out.
Yeah.
It's like, let's be honest, most designers are not keen on Excel. It's
it's so fun. We have a whole then personal sort of management. And like one of the pieces is you determine your long-term goals. And then we figure out how do we raise your salary? How do we give you bonuses throughout the year based on like profitability? And inside the spreadsheet, let's say like, I teach like 5 different types of goals, personal goals. And so let's say one of it is becoming debt free because a lot of times people have debt. And so we'll say you have like $10,000 on a credit card that your business is going to pay off for you. It'll give you can like, you'll plan it out. You'll show the intention payments based on your bonuses that we've strategized based on your business. And then as you're entering, like, okay, I made a payment. I made my first pay. It will show you a visual of like, how much you've paid. You can see like, 25% like is done and I have 75% left. And that is like the psychology too of seeing that progress is so important. But yeah, they're pretty, they're awesome.
It's amazing. I think everybody wants that. It's funny. I think most people would prefer just to outsource all of this, but the reality, it sounds like you're saying, is you can outsource some things. But really, you still need to be in the know when it's your business.
You really have to. I mean, you can outsource, like I said, I have a bookkeeper, I have an accountant. You can outsource, somebody doing your transactions for, reconciling them in your P&L sheet. You can outsource, all the tax stuff and things like that. But you cannot outsource like making strategic decisions. Like I have the ability to hire. I have the ability to do this mastermind, work with this coach. I have the ability to raise my salary, to bonus myself. Those things are decisions only you can make. It's very important that you're in the numbers. You're running a business, not a hobby. And a business means money. You're making money, and then the whole other side of it with your personal wealth building is can't be outsourced. Like you have to determine a budget. You have to determine what your short-term goals are. Like, how much do you want to go on vacation? How much do you want this for Christmas? And so our system, you determine all of your short-term savings and when, and it tells you exactly how much to save every month based on that. And then you have to determine your long-term goals. Do you want to give more? Do you want to pay off debt? Like, what are those goals? Do you retirement? What's the goal there? What are you working towards? And then you have to make those decisions and then move it from your business to your personal life and then execute and live out of those things.
I love that you say that. It's like starting with the picture. And the savings part really resonated with me because I've always saved a little bit ever since I was, I guess, probably in university, but I'm probably saving as much money now as I did when I was 25. Because I've just not ever upped how much I'm saving because I've always had this like growth mindset in the sense of the business. Like I want to put the money back into the business. I want to grow the business so that one day, but at the same time, I think there's an opportunity for me to be saving personal money monthly. But if you're right, if you don't like kind of plan it out and put it on paper and then schedule it or whatever it might be, like it's not going to happen. And then another year goes by And then it's so much easier to save. I love that idea. And this is not a new idea, obviously, but I'm like, what? Yeah, I got to do this. It's to save monthly. I mean, everyone listening is probably doing this. And they're like, Rebecca.
Honestly, no, because why? I mean, I wouldn't have a business if everyone was doing it. You're not alone.
I feel so much better. It always looks like on the surface and like to the outside that we've all got it figured out. Let's be honest. On Instagram, everything looks perfect. And it's not. So I'm not saving monthly, maybe just a tiny little bit. And then at the end of the year, I'm like, oh, what can I contribute to like my RSP? But I love that. I love that because you end up saving more in the long run. But if you wait till the end of the year, that lump sum seems like so much. A couple of years ago, my accountant was like, oh, you have this money. You can pay yourself this bonus. I was like, what? That's a lot of money. Like that's more than some people make in a year. I'm like, that's crazy. I was like, you think I can do it? And so I did it, but I felt sick to my stomach. And then the next year, I think was the pandemic and we had no cash flow. And I was like, damn it, I have left that in the company. And it was just, it's still in my mind. I have this number in my head where I'm like, why did I do that? But if I had saved monthly and added up to the same amount, it would feel very different, I think.
Yeah. And I just think, what are we telling ourselves? Like when we say, I'll pay myself last, I'll put it back into the business. I don't want to bonus myself out. I don't want to I'm going to just kind of like skimp by. Like, what are we telling to our psyche then? Like, what are we telling to ourselves? And then what decisions do we make out of that? And so I think, out of our thinking, we create action. And so that's why we want to kind of tweak the thinking along with the action and just sort of really build up this money muscle. And that's what I love to do. And so even that conversation that you had, it's like, why are you, putting it all back into the business? Like, why, is there a belief there that, well, maybe jobs won't come. And so I just need it for a rainy day. What is that belief that has you continually putting your money back into the business and just really, like you're saying, I don't have savings, I don't have a retirement plan. So really digging into the thinking so that we can then change the action in a really sustainable way.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think part of the thinking is that when it stays in the company, I don't have to pay tax on it. I mean, I pay tax, but I don't pay double tax. So by keeping the money in the business, I have to pay corporate tax, but that's, at least in Canada, corporate tax is quite low compared to personal tax. And so as soon as I pay myself, I've already paid corporate tax on that money. And now I'm paying a higher level of income tax. So it's like, I feel like if I don't need it, and I don't know, maybe I need to challenge my mindset here, but I feel like if I don't need it, I should keep it there because it's more money in the business to play with. And once it comes across the border into my personal bank account, it's now taxed, right? And it's less money.
Yeah. And so I think maybe just pressing into the belief around taxes and hey, that's just part of me infusing my life. And then I think I would also say really thinking about what happens. Who do I become when I pay myself more? What do I start to think about myself when I do that? Oh, I'm worthy of this. How does the conversation change? And then also, how does it tangibly impact? Maybe it means, women are shown statistically to be more altruistic with their money. So maybe it means you can be more generous. Maybe it means, instead of being super stressed in your personal life, you can start outsourcing. That's a crazy thing I see with entrepreneurs. And something I've really shifted is we will outsource in our business, but then we're doing work in our personal life that's we could pay somebody $15 an hour to do, but we're so maybe it means you could hire a housekeeper. And then that means that you can then be a better friend or a better wife. And I think we really have to think about, we're thinking so much about the business and, well, if I leave it in there, but how about what happens if we bring it into your life? What does that do for you? And that would, I guess, be my challenge or thought for you of maybe thinking through that for yourself.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you, Erinn. I love that. 2022, I am going to start save and pay myself regularly. I've already thought about increasing my own salary because like my salary, it's a joke what I pay myself. It's less than anybody live on, but it's just like kind of that one little bit. I'm like, oh, I'll just give this little nugget that's always for me. So I'm thinking I want to up that salary because then it's automatically coming to me. No, I have to pay, like I have to contribute to like CPP and EI and all the things that we have to do here in Canada, which is a business expense anyways.
Yeah.
But I think, and I have a question for you. I feel like I know the answer.
Okay.
Do men have trouble paying themselves when they run their own business?
Okay, this isn't.
I know I'm generalizing, but
okay, you are generalizing, but I'm just gonna answer this more based on. This isn't going to be so data based, I guess. So I want to qualify that, but I don't think that they have the same struggle that we do when it comes to this. I mean, my husband thinks is the guy that I'm closest to, is also an entrepreneur, and we're doing amazing things inside of real estate, and he doesn't have a problem paying himself. And I mean, just looking at like a man's like confidence, and like, a woman will only apply to a job if she believes she, meets 100% of the requirements. Yeah. A man will do it if he meets like 60%, like just the way that a man thinks, a way that a woman thinks. I mean, thinking about society and the evolution of the woman in the workplace, and being a financial contributor in the home, I think that we just have a lot more against us and a lot more to sort of work through. So that's my non-data informed answer is I don't think that they have the same challenge.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I think that unfortunately, I do think that probably is true. It's not database like you say, but I was wondering about that as we were talking. I'm like, I bet most men have no trouble taking money out of your company and paying themselves.
I mean, just think about how they like in the workplace, right? I mean, a similarity, I guess, the more data is like a man is much more likely to ask for a raise than a woman. Right? Yep. Like when it comes to money and finances, a man seems to be able to stand up for himself and ask for what he knows he's worth versus a woman. And so I feel like, of course, that's going to happen in entrepreneurship, especially when it's you. And so, in the mastermind that I run, that's all about this, what we've talked through the system and stuff. I mean, one of the biggest things that I think women walked away with the mindset is like, wow, this is really coming down to worthiness for me. Like a lot of like my decisions that I'm making is because I don't believe I'm worthy. I don't believe I'm worthy, and figuring out where does that come from and how do we work that out? And so I think for women, it is like a worthiness thing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I think the more I do this, the more I coach my own design community, the more I'm exposed to other female entrepreneurs, the more it becomes very evident that it's not just me, that it's something that we as women have come by. Honestly, it's a cultural upbringing, and there's so many things behind that. I do think there's an awareness right now in the world. I think it's like a little seed where women are starting to learn that this, you know what I mean? It's like the first step is being aware that this is the thing, right? Yes. So before you're in the dark, you're just being who you are, and you don't have self-awareness. So I think that there is collectively, at least in North America, there seems to be a movement for women, which is very exciting to me. And maybe I just see it because I'm in that headspace and I'm in that realm, but I do think there's a movement and to empower women to stand up for who they are and that they are worthy. And I think so many coaches and programs like what you do and like what I do, it's showing other women, here are some of the tools to help you because you can do this.
Yes.
Sell your short. So good. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so we're just wrapping up our time. I always like to ask my guests if they have any last nugget of wisdom, maybe something we didn't touch on that you would like to share with my audience.
So good. I mean, I think we touched on like a lot. I would say like, if you aren't doing any money work, a couple like great books because I love being super practical. I love Get Rich, Lucky Bitch, and You're a Badass at Making Money. Those are two great, like, specific money books that can be really helpful. And I think, if you don't already, maybe start to do some affirmations around money. Like, if that's just like the first thing that you do, is to acknowledge, like, what are the few limiting beliefs that I can very quickly acknowledge around money, and create some affirmations to really help you change your thinking. And like I said before, I think the more that you can embody wealthy women will change the world, and you believe that for yourself, I think you'll make really powerful decisions. And I say that out of two reasons. For me, like I said, women are shown to be more altruistic. And so obviously that means that, wealthy women will change the world that way. But then, as you can see, like, the process that I go through and when I work with people makes you have to do this personal evolution, which then I believe will make you a more of a shapeshifter and impactor in the world. And so I would just challenge your audience to start to tap into that belief.
Love that. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Erinn. Before we sign off, can you just let everyone listening know where they can find you?
Yes, of course. You can find me on Instagram. That's where I am most active. Erinn with 2 N's, ERINN _Bridgman, BRIDGMAN. I'm sure it will be in the show notes. And I'd encourage your audience to take the quiz that I have. It's a sort of a wealth prediction money path, and it kind of helps you to see, like, where are you at in your money making journey, and what are really practical tips that you can do to sort of take yourself to that next level.
Oh, I love it. I love a quiz. Okay, we'll include the link in the show notes. We'll get
Perfect.
that.
Yay!
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yay! Well, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, how about that episode with Erinn? I mean, it gets me excited. It's funny, I used to really shy away from anything to do with numbers. I was like, it just is a wash. No, I would sit down with my accountant and she would try to explain things to me, and nothing resonated. It felt like it just flew past my face. And it's really taking some work and taking time to sit down and, like, review it and repeat it and look at income statements. And it's not been fun, but I can tell you, the more you look at it, the easier it gets. And I love her perspective, and I love the idea that she has these spreadsheets that are beautiful. I mean, as designers, that's what we want, right? I like what the spreadsheet can tell me. I just don't always love, like, entering the info into the spreadsheet because it just feels kind of, like, tedious and time consuming. But maybe I can have a bookkeeper help me with that. Anyhow, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. Please let me know in the DMs on Instagram. And of course, join our Designer Meetup Facebook group. We are going to be going, it's a new year, we're going to be going live on Zoom I guess we could do it in the group, but it's not, let me think about that. We're going to be doing our Designer Meetup live Zooms more frequently in 2022 because I know a lot of designers and architects and stagers are getting so much value out of them. And it really is just an opportunity to get together on Zoom with like-minded entrepreneurs and talk about anything and everything that's going on in your business. And I'm there, and I offer insight, and other designers offer insight, and it's pretty awesome. It's free. So if you want to join, you do have to answer all the questions, though, in the Facebook group entry. We won't let you in unless you answer everything. Just telling you, because I want you to join, but I can't let you in if you don't answer all the questions. The link is in our show notes. It's on Facebook. It's called Designer Meetups. And that's all, guys. I'll see you soon.